3 spine-chilling true beach house horrors, unexplained secrets revealed from cursed shores. Nora stood at the threshold of her grandmother's beach house, the familiar salt air twisting through her senses, but this time it felt off. The sun blazed overhead, and laughter from Sam and Lily echoed from the shoreline, yet a chill snaked down her spine. She'd heard the ghost stories, the whispers of the girl who vanished years ago, but she didn't believe in that stuff. Not really. But as she stepped inside, an icy draft swept past her. Was it just her imagination, or did the house breathe, exhaling secrets long buried beneath the sands? The vibrant memories of summer spent here swirled in her mind, but they felt tainted now. She shook off the feeling, wanting nothing more than to bask in the sun like her kids, who darted into the ocean with unabashed joy. The gentle crash of waves should have soothed her, but it didn't. Instead, it echoed like a warning, a reminder of something sinister lurking just beneath the surface. As she settled onto the porch with her book, the rhythm of the ocean faded, swallowed by whispers drifting from the local shops. The disappearance, they murmured, the tale of a girl who loved these shores a little too much, last seen chasing tides. The word sent a shudder through Nora as she glanced back toward the beach. Sam and Lily were no longer playing alone, they were giggling, holding hands with a girl who seemed to shimmer in the sunlight, a reflection of innocence mixed with an eerie chill. At dinner that night, Nora watched her children babble about games shared with their new friend, a girl they claimed was not allowed to leave. Those words dug deep, her heart raced and her breath quickened. She chuckled nervously, dismissing their imaginative play as merely a product of the beach's magic, yet unease curled in her gut. That night, while the waves crashed violently against distant rocks, an inexplicable pull beckoned her. Driven by instinct, Nora stepped outside. Shadows danced beneath the full moon, stretching and retracting like ghostly hands clawing at the porch. She hesitated, the ocean's whisper turning into an invitation, a promise spoken through the brush of wind. Just then, she spotted her children, laughter ringing like a death knell, arm in arm with the translucent girl, her ethereal smile chilling Nora to the bone. A jarring realization crashed over her like the tide, she was not alone in this house. Desperate to seek answers, she sifted through old newspapers in the musty attic, every yellowed article revealing a history draped in eerie fog, coastal hauntings, and families forever scarred. The locals' looks turned cold, pity lurking in their eyes as they exchanged murmurs she could not decipher. There, amidst the layers of time, she unearthed an old photograph, her grandmother smiling brightly, arms around the missing girl, playing in the very patch of sand, her kids now troubled, fingers trembling. She confronted a shadowy local who watched her digging. He seemed to know more than he let on, offering twisted truths, yet his grin sent chills racing down her spine. With each whispered word, deeper connections entwined around her family, and Nora began to question every familiar face and reassuring smile in Silver Sands. If the true horror lay with the people who masked their intentions behind warm welcomes, how far would she go to protect her children? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As dusk settled into an unnerving quiet, an unsettling silence engulfed her children. Was the girl on the beach, pulling them toward a darkness she couldn't combat? An icy lump lodged in Nora's chest when, through a flicker of moonlight, she caught sight of the girl facing her, a ghostly twin of her own flesh, a knowing gaze consuming all hope. What secrets lay entwined in her family's history with the cursed shores of Silver Sands? Would she uncover an evil lurking in every smile, or would she be the next to vanish into the whispers of the tide? Nora's heart thudded in her chest, a frantic drumbeat against the heavy silence of the night. The girl on the beach stared intently, her gaze piercing through the darkness like a beacon of dread. The laughter of her children faded into a distant echo, replaced by the rhythmic crash of the waves, the tide that seemed to rise and fall in response to an unseen force. Sam. Lily. Nora's voice trembled, cracking under the weight of the fear that gripped her. But they didn't budge. Transfixed, her children stood under the moonlight, their eyes shimmering with a strange, unholy light as they gazed at the spectral child who beckoned them with a finger's pan of innocence. Nora stepped forward, adrenaline surging through her veins. Get away from her. The urgency in her voice cut through the thickening air. The girl turned her head, her smile widening, a smile that twisted Nora's stomach. It was a smile that promised secrets. Dark ones, her children, as if in a trance, began to tread toward the waves. Panic shot through Nora. The ocean swelled, seemingly eager to embrace them. Footsteps quickened, heart racing, but a strange sensation paralyzed her. It was as if the ground beneath her feet had transformed into a tar pit, slowing her down with every step she tried to take. Mommy. Lily's voice rang out, sweet yet haunting. She wants to play with us. Just like before. Sam echoed, his enthusiasm masking a creeping dread she couldn't shake. What did he mean by before? Just as Nora's resolve faltered, the air vibrated, thickening with whispers, voices floating like mist, weaving tales of sorrow and longing. Each word coiled around her like the fog of night, drawing her closer to the ocean's edge. You have to come, the voices whispered, a torturous lullaby, longing to draw her into their dark embrace. Nora felt a sickening lurch and tore her gaze from the veil of shadow surrounding her children. She turned and ran toward the house, heart pounding, each footfall clangorous against the wooden deck. Frantically, she fumbled for the old diary she had stumbled upon earlier. What had it said? She needed answers, something, anything to bring them back. Flipping through its delicate pages, she searched for signs, clues of what bound her family to this cursed place. Torn photographs fell out. One caught her breath, a faded image of her grandmother next to the very girl her children played with now. In the background, the waves crawled toward the shore, dark and restless. Then, under the dim lamplight, she noticed something else, a brief mention of a pact made in blood and salt, a bond forged through tragedy. With each frayed edge she turned, the words sunk deeper into her, a return to play until the waves call. What had her ancestors done? A loud crash sounded from outside, snapping her back to reality. Eyes wide with dread, she rushed to the window. The moonlight illuminated the beach, revealing the spectral girl standing alone, her back turned to the house, arms outstretched. The kids were nowhere to be seen. Sam. Lily. Nora screamed, her voice cutting through the cloak of silence. Despair crushed her. The reef was now a distorted memory of laughter and warmth. Amidst the trees lining the shore, she spotted movement. Figures emerged, sharp edges appearing like secrets unveiled. Through the darkness, she squinted harder, trying to pierce the veil separating her from the truth. The shadowy man from earlier was there, humming softly, a twisted melody that seemed to resonate with the ocean's pulse. What did you do? Nora gasped, staggering backward, horror dawning on her. He twisted his lips into a knowing smirk. They belong to her now. She always comes back. The world tilted sideways, and as her dreams turned into nightmares, the cold grip of realization sank in. The beach was cursed. It was a trap, a nightmare crafted by the very sand she thought held only memories. But waves like these wouldn't be appeased without a price. She turned slowly, her breath catching. The girl was closer now, the tide lapping hungrily at her heels. Forgotten laughter danced eerily in Nora's ears. What would she sacrifice to save her children? As the girl's voice rang out, "Come play with us," echoing the same haunting tune of the whispers, Nora knew that the worst had yet to unfold. She had to act quickly. Would she unearth the darkness that bound her lineage to these shores, or would she too become part of the ghastly tale woven by tides? The clock ticked as she took a shaky breath, dread coiling in her stomach. What did she truly know about her family? Would she brave the depths of the unknown to find her children, or was it already too late? Nora's fingers trembled as she clutched the diary against her chest, heart racing with the weight of realization. The night air turned colder, wrapping around her like the ghostly embrace of the girl on the beach. Each breath felt heavy, as though the very darkness pressed down, pushing her toward the ground. "Think, Nora, think," she muttered to herself, glancing back towards the window. The girl stood still, her hair billowing like smoke in the breeze. As if sensing Nora's stare, she turned, her eyes glinting like shards of glass. "Come play." The words rolled off her tongue, sweet yet deadly, twisting with promise and terror. Nora's pulse thundered in her ears. The night felt alive, whispering secrets she didn't understand. She couldn't let despair win. Not now. Gathering her resolve, she stepped out onto the porch, every creaking board beneath her feet a warning. "Sam. Lily." Her voice was stronger now, bouncing off the shadows, but the beach seemed to hold them hostage, the laughter muffled like a fading echo. The shadowy man remained by the trees, his presence looming like a storm cloud, obscuring the truth. "Why are you doing this?" Nora shouted, her voice breaking. He tilted his head, a glimmer of something dark sparkling in his eyes. "They are drawn to her. The bond is unbreakable. Just like your family before you." His words slithered into her mind, wrapping around reason and squeezing tight. She needed to outrun the truth, but it felt deceptively close, crawling through her veins. With a sudden surge of desperation, she raced for the old rowboat tied at the dock. It bobbed in the water, painted in echoes of the past, as if waiting for her command. She could feel the rippling water beckoning, a chilling invitation to the depths. Would the ocean part for her like it did for her children? What lay beneath the surface? Dread clawed at her throat as she pushed the boat into the waves, the wood creaking in protest. The girl's laughter broke through the crashing surf, sweet and haunting, floating on the wind like an incantation. "Join us, stay away from my family," Nora yelled, launching herself into the boat. She grabbed a paddle, the cold wood biting into her palms, and began to row. The creaturely sounds of the ocean enveloped her, pulling her into the darkness where sanity frayed. Each stroke took her deeper into murky waters, the shoreline fading into a blurred memory. As the ghostly outline of the girl grew closer, so did the other voices, her children's voices, mingling in a desperate chorus, urging her to come closer. "Mommy, we're here," they cried out, laughter now mingled with terror. "No!" Nora screamed, her voice cracking as she fought against the tide. Panic surged as the waves rolled with heightened fury, trying to drag her back, pulling her toward the abyss. She could almost see Sam and Lily, silhouettes dancing just out of reach. "Mommy! Help us!" The familiar sound felt like nails digging into her head. Was it really them? Was she losing her mind? Just as she turned her gaze toward the shore, the spectral girl stood at the water's edge, her eyes locked on Nora with a predatory shine. "Your children are part of the game. And you can join us." With a cold shiver, Nora realized the game was already in motion. There was no time left, time flowed differently here. If she didn't hurry, she'd be ensnared too. Desperation clawed at her throat, and she pushed the boat harder, shifting the paddle with fierce purpose. The shoreline receded into the darkness, tension enveloped her like a heavy cloak. She could feel the tide changing, swirling with a restless energy that vibrated through the boat. Suddenly, from behind, the rhythmic splashes of the waves shifted, echoing a different tune, a chant rising like an ancient hymn. The shadows around her thickened, wrapping closer, until darkness pooled on the water's surface like ink, a living thing hungry for flesh. Nora looked back, fear electrifying her spine. The girl was no longer alone, others emerged from the depths, each face a fragment of what once was lost children, forgotten souls. Tethered to the shadows. "Help us, Mommy," they echoed, a haunting lullaby that pierced her heart. Nora's breath hitched. What had she waded into? But as the tide beckoned and the figures closed in, she felt an unsettling resolve bloom within her. If history repeated like an unforgiving wave, she would fight, no matter the cost. Fight or drown, Nora, she murmured to the void, summoning every ounce of strength. The choice lay ahead, but the ocean pulsed with both dread and allure. Would she be able to save her children, or would she become another soul lost to the tide's dark embrace? The horizon twisted with unseen dangers as Nora faced the chaos closing in, a final desperate gamble to uncover the truth. Would she find the key to breaking the curse, or was the ocean merely playing its wicked hand? Nora's heart raced as the cold water splashed against the sides of her rowboat. The figures grew closer, their eyes reflecting moonlight like polished stones, each face contorted in agony yet yearning for connection. The haunting echoes of her children's voices intertwined with their whispers, creating a chorus that drowned out the crash of the waves. "Help us," they sang, an irresistible siren call. "Get back!" she shouted, her voice cracking under pressure. She could feel fear strangling her throat, squeezing her resolve like a vice. Panic bubbled within her. What if this was all a trick? What if the laughter, the cries, were just illusions feeding off her desperation? "Mommy, you have to play," one of the lost souls wailed, the child's voice piercing through the cacophony like a knife. It sounded so much like Sam, but deeper, more resonant in a way that sent chills spiraling down her spine. "Sam! Lily!" Nora shouted, desperation flooding her. "Hold on. I'm coming." With a surge of energy, she swung the paddle wildly, sending droplets flying, but the figures swayed as if untouched by her defiance. From the darkness, the spectral girl stepped closer, the edges of her form flickering like a flame caught in a draft. "The game recognizes the player, dear Nora. Join us, or lose them forever." The words slithered into her mind, filling her with dread. Lose them forever? It was a reality she couldn't face. Would becoming a player mean losing herself? What sacrifice would it demand? The boat lurched beneath her as a monstrous wave struck unexpectedly. She gasped in horror as the swirling water sloshed over the sides. Now panic clawed at her with claws sharper than despair. The paddles slipped from her hands, falling into the depths below. Water rose, threatening to engulf her. "Mommy! We're scared." The eerie melody morphed into a dark chant, voices rising to a fervor, drowning out any rational thought. Shadows writhed with anticipation, as if waiting for her to falter. Nora gripped the sides of the boat, her knuckles white, fighting against the rising tide. Out of instinct, she leaped overboard. The icy water enveloped her, pulling her down like an anchor. She fought against the current, reaching desperately for the surface, for the laughter that twisted into hysterical cries around her. Her lungs burned, desperation fueling her as she kicked and clawed, breaking through to gasp in air as bubbles burst around her like frantic stars, but the shadowy figures were closer now, hovering beneath, their fingers brushing against her legs like tendrils trying to hold her down. "Join us," they whispered in eerie harmony, their voices a blend of sweet temptation and dread. Nora's gaze darted across the darkness, searching for the outlines of Sam and Lily. They were so close. Could she reach them? She had to believe they were waiting, that she could still save them, even as the depths of despair curled around her. "No!" She screamed again, forcing herself to tread water. She would not succumb. She felt the betrayal of the ocean deep inside, an oppressive weight, but she would fight. With a mighty kick, she propelled herself forward, determined to breach the horizon, but the shadows coiled tighter. Just as she caught a glimpse of frolicking forms in the murky depths, a sharp pain shot through her foot, like an electric shock. Something had grazed her, rough and unyielding. With frantic eyes, she searched below, feeling the pull of the current shift, threatening to drag her down. "I want to let you take me," she cried, adrenaline fueling her stricken resolve. But the laughter warped into maniacal shrieks that echoed all around. The girl materialized before her, a wicked grin spreading across her face. "Come play with us forever." In that moment, as dread wrapped around her heart, Nora understood, the game was not just hers, it was a history, one she was now part of, woven tightly with every lost soul entangled in its web. As the shadows clawed at her, a thunderous crash rippled beneath, creating a churning vortex. Suddenly, waves erupted in a blinding surge, tossing her upward. Would she emerge alive or plunge into the abyss of secrets that the ocean kept like treasures? Just as she broke through the surface, a familiar visage loomed above the gray form of a man, the shadowy figure from before, standing on the dock, casting his knowing gaze upon her. The connection between them pulsed through the air, thickening the tension like fog. "Let the game begin, Nora," he taunted, raising a dark hand as the ocean beckoned its next move, her breath caught in her throat. Unknown fates loomed ahead, each second stretching taut, drawing her in, threatening to tear her family apart or unite them in eternal darkness. Would she choose to play this dreadful game or fight her way back to the light? The ocean roared, waves crashing like thunder against rock. Nora's heart pounded in time with the surge, the man's silhouette looming like a specter, cold and unyielding. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, yet nothing behind her but darkness and dread awaited. "Join us," the shadows sang, their voices braiding in haunting whispers. They twisted around her, formulating a net of despair. As she tread water, fighting the currents, the essence of their game crackled in the air, heavy, suffocating. "Who are you?" she yelled, lifting her chin defiantly. "What do you want from me?" His grin was razor-sharp, but his eyes, dark as sin, held a depth she couldn't fathom. "You know what you must do," he replied, voice low and resonant, like the ocean itself. "It's a game of life and death. You are already chosen." Chosen? The word echoed in her mind, twisting her fear into a knot of confusion. The faces of her children danced through her thoughts, innocent glimmers in the swelling tide. "Sam! Lily!" She called again, voice cracking. "I'm coming. I won't leave you." A bolt of pain shot through her leg, sharper than anything before. Something beneath the water had bitten her, a predatory urge laced with malice. She thrashed violently, creating splashes that fractured the hypnotic serenity of the shadows. "Play or perish," the girl hissed, emerging from the depths with a smile painted in malice, droplets clinging to her like a crown of spiny thorns. "Your children are lost, but you can save them if you play." Panic surged within Nora. Her mind raced, images blurred, and time felt fleeting. What kind of game demanded such sacrifice? What if playing meant losing them forever? She cast her gaze beneath the water, fear clawing at her chest. The silhouettes of her children flickered wrapped in darkness. Were they drowning or simply waiting for her to surrender? Teeth clenched, she pushed the dread aside. "I won't give in." The water raged around her, foam splashing up against her face. Beneath the surface, a rumble echoed like distant thunder, the violent birth of something ancient. Then, it hit her. A truth so vile it sent an icy tremor through her soul. "You want me to replace them?" she screamed, voice wavering, trembling against the tide. "You want me to take their place in this twisted game?" "Join us," the chorus hummed, seductive as night falling over the world. Her instincts flared up, pushing her toward the dock. "I choose to fight," she shouted defiantly, swimming toward the fading light, only to feel the shadows closing in, gripping her with an iron grasp. But she kicked harder, adrenaline igniting her will, desperation coloring each stroke. "Get away from me. I won't let you take me." The pressure intensified, pulling her down into a whirlpool of dark colors, just as she glimpsed an ethereal hand reaching toward her, a hand that was cold yet familiar, a pang of hope or a trap, she couldn't tell. "Mommy." The sound trembled through her heart like a shard of glass. Nora reached for that voice, soaring out of the swirling dark. In her frantic grasp, she felt warmth, strength. All at once, the shadows recoiled, and the sirens screamed, twisting in discomfort. "Help us, Mommy." The voices swelled, mingling with her own sobs, creating a chaos of empathy and sorrow. She was caught again, straddling both sides of life and the abyss, hope and despair battling in every ounce of her being. Time stretched, but in that moment of agony and clarity, Nora made a choice. Breathing deep, she swam toward the light, shouting their names, Sam, Lily. Willing herself to do whatever it took to pull them from the clutches of the waiting dark. As the shadows writhed, furious at her defiance, the ocean roared louder. Would her desperate reach save them, or would it seal her fate in this harrowing game? Just as she thought she could break through, the girl reappeared, blocking her path, a specter cloaked in shadows, ready to draw her back into the depths. Play or perish, she echoed, eyes shimmering with malice. Nora's heart raced as she prepared for the next decision. Would she play this horrific game and risk everything? Or could she find a way to defy even the darkest of fates? A final wave crashed, and the world spiraled as she plunged into darkness once more. Nora's body sank beneath the surface, the biting cold swallowing her whole. Darkness enveloped her like a heavy shroud. She felt the pull of despair wrapping around her limbs, but her heart thundered each beat a defiance against the shadowy force. Where was the light? The chilling voice of the girl echoed in her mind, a sinister lullaby. Play or perish, it was mocking, a reminder of her choice yet to be made. Nora twisted and turned, eyes scanning the murky depths. She had to reach them. Sam and Lily were too close, too precious to be lost. The pain in her leg flared as if reminding her of the stakes. Taking a deep breath, though useless submerged, she fought against the gnaw of the abyss, kicking up in desperation. Nora's thoughts raced, fragments of memories flickering in her mind like strobe lights. Family picnics, laughter under the sun, the way Sam's eyes lit up when he saw his sister. Each memory a stab of clarity amid the chaos. Think, Nora, she urged herself. What must I do? Suddenly, she gasped, the familiar warmth of that ethereal hand seeped through her fingers, even underwater. Was it an illusion? A trick played by the shadows? She grasped harder, not allowing doubt to seep in. This hand felt real, pulsing with a heartbeat like her own. But before she could pull closer, the malicious girl surged forth from a crevice in the darkness, body twisting like a serpent. You believe this can save them? She laughed, a sound slicing through the water, sharp and painful. You'll lose everything if you cling to it. Panic exploded in Nora's chest. I don't care. The girl's grin widened, revealing pointed teeth. Then choose. A sense of urgency erupted within her like fireworks. She thought of the game, of surrendering to these shadows. The price was too high. Devour her, called the shadows, as though they were a single entity, hungry and restless, demanding blood, tears, despair. With a force that surprised even her, Nora shot toward the surface, breaking through the oppressive weight. Gasping for air, she glanced back at the abyss, at the swirling darkness below. Could this be it? Lights flickered toward the dock, a siren call against the gate of despair. She needed to reach her children. They were close, she could almost hear their laughter, faint but clear, like bells chiming in a thick fog. Nora backstroked, using every ounce of strength to push away from the remnants of fear creeping at her heels. Mommy! Their voices shouted, gripped with terror, urging her onward. But temptation shimmered beneath the surface, the shadows dancing like deceiving lights, a manifestation of everything she wanted. Join us, they beckoned, weaving false promises. With each stroke, the haunting laughter of the girl rippled through the water like poison. You can't resist it. You have to join us. Nora felt the darkness tugging at her again, an icy grip on her soul. I choose, she began, feeling breathless, but the faint whisper of a truth swept over her. Suddenly, another voice interjected, deeper and more resonant, surfacing like a lifeline. Save them, Nora. You're braver than this. It was hard to focus. The shadows had started closing in once more, brimming with malice, eager to claim yet another soul. An image flickered in her mind, her children, longing gazes shining through terror and darkness. Could she forsake them? No. Strength lies in love, the voice echoed stronger now. It wasn't just a voice, it was the promise of hope. Nora clenched her fists, summoning every last scrap of willpower. I choose to save them. The girl screamed, the shadows recoiling as Nora surged upward, propelled by determination. As she broke through the surface again, the bitter taste of salt filled her mouth, and for the first time, a fierce light surrounded her. But there was no time to linger, the tide shifted, and suddenly the girl was back, seething with rage, blocking her path toward the safety of the shore. You will play, Nora. All your choices come with a cost. Nora's heart raced anew as the swirling shadows began forming a cyclone of horror around her, threatening to pull her back into the abyss. Would her decision cost her everything? Would she be forever trapped between love and sacrifice? She couldn't think something primal ignited within her as she made her flight toward the shore, and then she saw them, Sam and Lily, impaled by shadowy hands, trapped in a nightmare of their own. Could their plea for help reach her in time? Mommy! The desperation in their cries shattered her heart, bartering the depth of her fear for a flicker of hope. With the shadows closing in, the battle between light and darkness was far from over. Would Nora overcome the chilling game set before her? As the tide rose, a question pulsed on the ocean's breath, a whisper filled with menace. What will you lose to save them? The next wave was coming, a storm that may drown them all. Nora stumbled forward, her heart hammering against her ribcage. The light had emerged, shimmering like a beacon, but it came with a price. Shadows writhed at her feet, howling with rage as they fought to reclaim her. They clawed and scraped, their whispers biting at her flesh. No! She couldn't look back. Sam and Lily needed her. Desperation surged through her veins. They were trapped, suspended in a nightmare that was becoming increasingly real. Every instinct screamed for her to save them, but fear threatened to engulf her. Mommy! Their voices echoed like a haunting symphony, weaving through her thoughts, drawing her into the depths of despair. Their faces hovered in her mind, wide eyes, mouths stretched in silent screams, hands reaching for escape. Suddenly, the girl's laughter enveloped her, a sinister melody that turned the warmth of hope into a chilling song of torment. You will join them, or they will perish, she taunted, her shadowy form swirling in rhythm with the darkness. Their souls will fuel the game. Nora fought to breathe, the salty air of the ocean mixing with the pungent scent of fear. Enough! She shouted, the sound swallowed by the crashing waves. She focused, channeling every ounce of love she had for her children, amplifying it, using it to drown out the shadows. Mommy, help us! Their cries pierced her heart like shards of glass. She felt them, a thread binding her life to theirs, fraying at the edges. If she didn't act now, she could lose them forever. Please! The shadows flickered, momentarily retreating. They could feel her will, they could sense her resolve. This was more than a game now, it was a battle for her children's lives. Summoning her strength, Nora lunged forward, plunging into the depths of darkness once more. She could see the outlines of Sam and Lily, their forms enveloped in tendrils of shadow. She could almost touch them, her arms straining against the pull of the abyss, but then, the cold laughter of the girls circled around her. What will you sacrifice for their return? Choose wisely. Nora felt the chills seeping into her bones. I won't lose them. She cried out, willpower igniting an ember of defiance. She grasped at the shadows clinging to her children, tearing them away, even as they hissed and snapped back at her. The deeper she waded, the stronger the shadows grew, wrapping around her limbs like serpents, tightening their grip. There was a weight to her choices, an unbearable pressure that threatened to crush her spirit. She felt the love for her children mingle with overwhelming terror, a concoction that left her trembling. The girl emerged from the shadows, towering with a presence that exuded a primal fear. You must enter the game, or watch them drown in their own despair. Nora's heart felt like lead, dragging her down into the inky depths. What kind of game? She was too raw, too frightened to consider any possible outcome. A flicker of hope pierced through the darkness. Strength in love, echoed the deeper voice. It was her anchor in the storm, a reminder that they could find a way through this chaos. Swallowing hard, she felt the swell of hope rise within her. I choose love. The words tumbled from her lips with fierce conviction, a declaration that shot through the shadows, illuminating their cold, twisted forms. The girl's expression faltered, surprise etched into her dark features. Then you shall face the first challenge, a choice that will turn your heart. Will it brave the cost? Nora quaked as what seemed like thunder boomed behind her. Choose. The girl commanded, and suddenly a split appeared in the air, revealing two paths shrouded in mist. One path glimmered with warmth, while the other pulsed with an ominous chill. Mommy! The cries of Sam and Lily rose like a wave, crashing over her resolve. Every second felt stretched by dread, her choices rippling into the unknown. Which path would she take? Would it bring her closer to her children, or would it lead her further into the depths of despair? As the shadows surged in unison, Nora's heart raced. The choice hovered, heavy and foreboding, and she knew that whatever she decided could cost her everything. Time is running out. The girl hissed, claws poised to strike. Nora hesitated, the weight of the moment threatening to crush her. What if she made the wrong choice? Would fate seal her family's doom? The darkness roared, and with it, the call of the ocean surged loud and clear. What will you sacrifice to save them? Her future, and the lives of her children, hung precariously on the edge of this decision. Nora's breaths came in ragged gasps as she stared down both paths. The warm light flickered like a distant memory, a cozy embrace. The cold path pulsed, a heartbeat of dread that promised despair. She felt the shadows squeeze tighter, pulling at her sanity. Choose. Or they will suffer. The girl screeched, her voice cutting through the ocean's roar. The pressure mounted on Nora's chest, threatening to crush her. Sweat dripped down her brow, mingling with salt from the sea spray. Mommy! Please! Sam and Lily's voices echoed, ringing with urgency. She couldn't stand it. Whichever way she turned, she faced heartbreak. Could the warm path truly lead her back to them, or was it a ploy to trap her, ensnaring her in false hope? Mommy! The dark ones are coming. Lily's innocent voice struck her like a blow. With trembling hands, Nora stepped to the edge of the warm path. I choose. In an instant, the shadows roared, a cacophony of mournful cries. The warm path shimmered, almost like rippling water. But as she leaned forward, she felt a tug, a pull dragging her toward the cold path. The shadows clawed at her ankles, whispering her fears, promising to rend her spirit if she chose warmth. Mommy, don't leave us. Sam's voice transformed into a wail, piercing through the din. With every second stretching like an eternity, Nora closed her eyes. A deep breath filled her lungs, an inhalation of icy despair. I choose love. She screamed. The conviction in her voice startled even her. Suddenly, the warmth intensified, wrapping around her like a long-lost embrace, but the girl's laughter twisted through the air, cold as steel. Foolish mother. Their fate is sealed. Nora felt her spirit tremble. The glow of warmth turned sinister, pulling her deeper. Her heart raced. Had she made the wrong choice? A blinding light erupted from the path, swallowing her. Nora pitched forward, falling into a vortex of colors and sounds. She landed hard on uneven ground. The air felt thick, like smog, heavy with sorrow and dread. The shadows shifted, twirling around her, their claws raking dangerously close. Where are you? She called out, her voice barely a whisper, lost in the dark. The shadows tightened, isolating her in an ever-narrowing circle. They whispered her name, their voices a sinister chorus. Images of Sam and Lily appeared, trapped behind faceless shadows, despair reflected in their wide, terrified eyes. Nora's heart twisted. I won't give up on you. She shouted, thrusting her hands out. I choose to save them. The shadows hissed, recoiling at her words. Then live with the cost. Nora shook as the ground beneath her trembled, fissures opening wide, dark chasms threatening to swallow her whole. The girl emerged, twisting in the air, eyes burning bright. Your heart or their freedom? One must break to emerge. Nora's heart thundered in her chest. Did she have the strength to endure this cost? Sam! Lily! She screamed, reaching into the void, but their cries faded. Shadows clawed at her senses, dragging her deeper into anguish. Just then, a figure appeared, familiar yet distorted, coated in darkness. Nora squinted, fear electrifying her fingertips. Who are you? The figure raised a hand, revealing half of its face bathed in light. You have to trust in the love you bear. The shadows hissed, more agitated now. Time is running out. Please. She begged, as the chasm widened further. Make your choice. Their freedom or your heart. Heart pounding, Nora felt the weight of the moment press down, suffocating under its enormity. The darkness clawed at the edges of her courage, pulling her to the brink. Would she sacrifice everything for a flicker of hope? As she struggled for an answer, the shadows shrieked with rage, the world around her bending into chaos. Your choice. Echoed the girl's chilling laughter, ringing like a death knell. In this moment of dread, faced with impossibility, would Nora find the strength to endure? Or was this the end of love's fight against shadows, marking the beginning of something far worse? The darkness closed in, and Nora knew she stood on the knife's edge of fate. The ground shook violently beneath Nora, the chasms gaping wider, ready to swallow her whole. Sweat dripped down her back as the fabric of her reality warped, shadows swirling around her like hungry wolves. The figure with the bright face loomed closer, its features flickering in and out of clarity, trapped between light and darkness. Trust. You must believe. It urged, but doubt snaked through her heart. Was this a trick? One last play from the shadows to confuse her? The cries of her children echoed louder within the storm of chaos, each note like a knife digging into her soul. Mommy! Help us! They cried, voices crackling through desperation. Every instinct urged her to run toward them, but the shadows pushed her back, their touch like ice against her skin. Foolish choice. The girl laughed, her voice echoing through the abyss. You think your love can defeat the dark? It will consume you. Nora gritted her teeth, determination flooding her veins. Wasn't love supposed to be stronger than fear? It had to be. She focused on the faces of Sam and Lily, imagined their bright smiles, their innocent laughter. They were treasures worth fighting for. Release them. She shouted into the swirling shadows, her voice bursting forth like a dam breaking. I will do whatever it takes. The shadows recoiled, hissing and screeching like wounded beasts. Then know the price. They howled, their voices melding into one monstrous roar. A pulse of energy surged through her, warm at first, then scorching as the shadows retaliated. They crawled over her, seeping into her mind, chilling warmth slipping through the cracks of her resolve. Images flashed, her life before the storm, the laughter shared over dinner, the bedtime stories, the simple joys. They painted a picture that twisted her heart. Mommy! We're scared. Sam's voice broke through the fog, pulling at her fiercely. Fight it. The figure begged, its face flickering back into clarity. Your heart is stronger than this darkness. Nora's heart rattled in her chest, as she felt the pull of the shadows growing heavier. She faltered for a heartbeat, doubt creeping in, but then she remembered the warmth of her children's hugs, the way they made her feel alive. A fire ignited in her chest, burning against the shadows that sought to snuff it out. I choose love. I choose to fight for you. She roared, throwing her arms out wide. The shadows wailed in agony as her voice pierced through their gloom, light erupted from her, battling against the darkness. Nora felt warmth envelop her, pushing the shadows back, but the cost was swift. Her heart ached, the familiar beat slowed, as the light demanded its toll. The ground trembled violently, fissures crackled like thunder. She could see Sam and Lily, trapped in the depths of the shadows, their faces straining against despair. Panic surged. "Please, come back to me. Then feel our pain." The girl shrieked, and in an instant, the shadows flooded her mind with icy memories, her failures as a mother, the mistakes and missed moments all twisted and horrifying. Each memory cut deeper, but she clung to her resolve. "I love you," she cried, and the shadows recoiled. An unbearable weight pressed down on her, threatening to crush her spirit. The darkness swirled, a relentless storm, pulling at her, taunting her madness. But she held on, channeling every ounce of love she had. A blinding light erupted, forcing the shadows back as she propelled herself toward the flickering forms of her children. The world around her swirled and cracked, colors merging into a kaleidoscope of horror. Just as she reached for them, a searing pain shot through her chest, and she fell to her knees, gasping. "No!" she screamed, fighter's grit shaking her voice. But would it be enough? And then, a chilling whisper echoed behind her, distorting the air. "Embrace the cost, or lose them forever." The shadows began drawing together, pooling around her, hungry to consume everything she had fought for. As Nora struggled against the tide of darkness ready to wash over her, a moment of realization crashed into her like a wave. Choice was a great weight, but to love was an act of rebellion. Would she pay the price for her light or be lost to the abyss, leaving Sam and Lily to fend for themselves? The weight of her decision loomed like an executioner's axe, and she knew the true test had only just begun. Nora gasped as the tide of darkness surged around her, each shadow clawing at her determination. The chilling whispers rattled her, promising despair and loss. "What will you sacrifice?" they asked, the air thick with the weight of that question. Yet beneath it all, a flicker of hope glimmered like a spark against the night. "She couldn't give up. I choose love," she cried again, the defiance breaking through her fear. Her words rang clear in the chaos, slicing through the oppressive shroud wrapping around her. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, writhing in shock. A light burst forth from her core, growing brighter, burning fiercely against the darkness. In that illuminating glow, she felt the surge of a mother's heart, fierce and unwavering. Nora surged forward, pushing through the swirling shadows, entranced by her children's cries. "Sam! Lily! I'm coming!" Each stroke felt like a battle, but she pressed on, fueled by love-surpassing fear. Panic tore at her as she remembered the terrible price, the memories that begged to haunt her, but she wouldn't let them. She wouldn't allow the darkness to hold sway over her heart. The spectral girl stood ominously in her path, her dark aura shimmering with indignation. "You think love can save you? You cannot escape the game." With eyes narrowing, Nora felt her resolve harden. "You're wrong," she shouted over the tumult of the waves. "Love is the strongest force there is." Gathering every ounce of strength, she summoned the memories of Sam and Lily's laughter, of the warmth of their hugs and the light in their eyes. It fueled her, transforming anguish into resolve. "I'll conquer you with love." The darkness surged to meet her, a terrible tide thrashing wildly, but Nora braced herself as she broke into a sprint. The power of her love surged forth, tearing at the shadows with radiant light. The girl shrieked, the humiliation clear on her features as they began to dissolve. "Mommy!" The words were urgent songs of hope. Sam and Lily's forms started breaking free from the dark, their innocence shining through, glimmering like the suddenly visible shoreline. "Hold on. I'm coming." Nora felt the shadows tug at her, squeezing tightly, but with every bold step forward, the grip of despair lessened. With soul-stirring determination, Nora leapt into the flood of light, arms outstretched. The warmth enveloped her like an embrace as she reached for her children, ready to pull them into the safety of her love. In an explosion of brilliance, the shadows receded, swallowed by the radiant glow that radiated from her heart. the whispers quieted, fear evaporating into the salty air. She felt the warm hands of her children grasp around her own, and their fingers severed the darkness, tearing it apart, cracking open the abyss. Tidal waves broke behind them, freeing a cacophony of lost souls. Laughter and cries of joy echoed around as love triumphed over darkness. The shadowy figure faded, collapsing into whispers and mist, an awful remnant of a game no longer played. "Mommy!" Sam and Lily exploded into tears of relief, burying their faces into her neck. "We were scared." Nora held them tightly, shielding them from the cold echoes of the past. "I know, my loves. But we did it. We're free." Under the bright glow of the silver moon, they stepped onto the solid ground of the shore, leaving behind the haunted darkness that had loomed. Nora breathed deeply, tasting the salt in the air as she finally felt safe. The beach wasn't cursed, not anymore. It was theirs again, beyond those ghostly tales that could no longer grip them in fear. As she knelt to the sand beside them, the horizon brightened, a new dawn breaking over the edge of the world. "Let us build a sandcastle just like before," Sam shouted, and Lily jumped in excitement, clapping her hands. For the first time in ages, Nora smiled, her heart swelling with warmth. "I love you too," she said, feeling the heaviness lift from her shoulders, clearing the memories of dread. With newfound resolve, they all began to build their castle, laughter ringing true, as the tides gently ebbed and flowed. Behind them, they had faced the darkness, and love had led them home. Now it's your turn. If you felt the chills, the heart, and the thrill of this journey, you need to subscribe now to our channel for more exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and help us spread more tales like this, because your support matters. Flood the comments with your thoughts and emotions. What would you sacrifice for love? And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this adventure. Your loyalty is what makes our stories possible, so step up and show your support as a true fan.